Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have Alexandria soccer executive director Tommy Park back with me again. Coach Tommy, to me, is one of the best executives in soccer and youth sports generally, and does a great job of taking with this great staff Alexandria soccer from a kind of a mid-level travel program to one of the elite programs in the Mid-Atlantic. Coach, great to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I put the pressure on you with that one. So you got
Yeah, none of it's true, but we
exactly.
appreciate
Well,
the support.
yeah. Well, let me remind folks of your background. You were a DeMatha grad, I believe, 2003, Coach.
Yes.
Yeah, played soccer there. DeMatha's got a great soccer program for folks who don't know it because it's great in football and obviously basketball. Coach went to Mary Washington, class of 2007. Played soccer there. He got a master's degree in sports industry management, I believe, at Georgetown, and he was at DeMatha for a while, but it's basically been at, I believe, Alexander since 2011. And he's helped really transform the club, as I mentioned before. Also a licensed soccer coach, even though I haven't really seen Coach Tommy do much coaching over the years, and I've seen a lot of them. But at some point, I know he must have been a tremendous coach as well. Coach, did I get most of that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the coaching side, I like to look at it now as, coaching the coaches or coaching our staff. I feel like our staff is a team, um, a growing team, a dynamic team that has a lot of, different pieces, and we try to be very thoughtful about how we approach our jobs. So
Yeah.
coaching in the office.
Exactly. Well, why don't we just go ahead and start there? So, one thing about Alexandria, and as you know, my son played there for at least 4 or 5 years. Uh, you have some great full time employees that are also coaches. Just great guys, great men and women. Chandler played for Jim Hogan, who I think is just an amazing guy. Coach Tim, awesome guy. Coach Mike Mastriano. I can go on and on. I don't think Coach Mike is full time, but you have a lot of great coaches, full time employees. What is your key to motivating and inspiring these great people to not only coach and help you win games, but also help you build the club?
No, it's a great question, and you're right. We do have a lot of awesome people that are, first and foremost, great people who really are connected to our values, right? And I think one of the things that we try to do, again, it's always a work in progress. We all are as individuals a work in progress. But what we try to do is really bring everybody together around our common outcomes that we seek as a club. And I think, all kind of being focused and refocused on the things that high level things that we want to achieve as a club, allows us to not only connect with each other around that, but then, show up as their best selves on the field with players, with parents and all the stakeholders. So I think that we're rooted in a plan. We try not to make decisions or introduce program adjustments without really thinking through them and how they may impact the player and their families. So I think overall, that's resulted in kids having, and now adults in our adult programming, having great overall experiences that, keep them playing. And, I think that's our primary, kind of goal or outcome, is that we want to see healthier and happier individuals and a more connected community.
Yeah, well, Coach, also, it seems to me that you're able to get great soccer minds. Everyone doesn't have to be a great mind, but really good soccer minds. Um, and you can get them business and organizational experience as well. So you're able to take people that are great on the field, and
Hmm.
and you've been able to you and Alexandria have been able to offer career paths to folks on your staff, which I think is a really interesting aspect of what you guys do.
Yeah, I mean, great observation, right? I mean, I was fortunate enough to be the first formal full-time employee at the club in 2011, and we now have 22 full-time staff and 70 staff coaches, and over 500 contractors and volunteers. So I think the popularity of the sport, its growth, the interest in a wide range of types of programming, from the most introductory to the most advanced, has really, obviously there's some challenges with professionalizing clubs, right? And I think, we could talk about that for a long time, right? The professionalization of youth sports in America. But there's a lot of good that comes with it. And, having folks that are able to be professionals on and off the field ultimately improves the quality of the experience. And I think that's something, to get back to your initial question, we've had to do a lot of training of folks, right, to introduce or enhance skills that they need to be great organizers. Because at the end of the day, soccer is an event, right? It's event planning. It's making sure that it's a school, right? It's a classroom. So I think you have both large scale and small scale events, and you have an annual school kind of all running together. And we know how difficult it is to run, high quality events. And we also know how difficult it is to run a school that, in our case, we have over 7,500 kids in the school and adults. So that's a wide range of stakeholders. So yeah, I mean, career path, right? We have just a wide range, but we have over time tried to narrow people's focus so that they can be better and at what they're doing, as opposed to wearing a million different hats.
Yeah.
You mentioned Jim Hogan, Chris Arnold, Ryan Rich, Grigor Boychev. These are some of the first full-time employees at the club who came from different areas. Ryan Rich, our technical director, went and played at Princeton.
Hmm.
He then had a quick stint playing Red Bull, etc. But then got his master's in special education and curriculum development from UVA.
Oh,
Taught in the classroom for several years after working for DC United in Alexandria schools, public school system. So we identified him as somebody who had a unique background, a master's degree, right? Ivy League, and a master's degree from UVA. And he was going to be our guy, right? To introduce and develop the curriculum. We recently welcomed him back after a stint of him running, NCSL, one of the largest youth leagues in the DC area. So he's just a good example of somebody who, had a wide range of skills and probably wasn't envisioning a career in youth sport or youth soccer. But when we were able to kind of hyper focus him now on the technical aspects, it really shows up on the field.
yeah. I always like the style with the way he coaches. He's always really cool, calm over there on the bench where all the parents, everyone else is going crazy, you know, uh, like we do. Last time we talked, you mentioned that uh, Grigor and Coach Arnold and Coach Hogan, all the guys you talked about, all great guys. They helped you develop the style of play that Alexandria is known for, a passing style of play. It was interesting because when my son Chandler started playing, some schools thought were like the kids should be dribbling at a very young age. Everything should be dribble, dribble, dribble. And I remember Alexandria was distinctively different at that point. And and as we talked last time, I definitely think having a style of play has helped you manage your different age groups. You can move kids up and down if all teams are playing the same style of play. It helps you also develop your coaches. I mean, all coaches that come to you don't know how to implement a style of play, don't know, coaching is one of those things you learn on the job, and you get better as you do it. So having a style of play helps you with coaches. Has that? So I've been out of the club world for the last
Hmm.
2 years because my son hasn't
Yeah.
played. I've kept up with high school and college a little bit, but not so much club. Have you guys kept to the same style? And what's new with that?
Yeah, I think that I love that, first of all, that we are known for something, right? And it is uh uh that we have an identity, right? That it shows up when we play. I love that people say, "Oh, we played against an Alexandria team and they always have this identity," right? And I love that. I also think it's a little bit misrepresented, right, in how it's described. And the way I say that, I think we're known for being able to pass, right, being able to pass through the lines, and not only focus on ball mastery and individual skill, or one v one development, but we're able to introduce that, being able to take players on 1v1, getting out of pressure with an individual skill, but also have the team, concepts show up. And I think that that's where I think we are. Uh, I don't want to compare us to other entities. There's a lot of like individual coaches around the DMV and around the country, that do a great job, right? And have their own coach, um, philosophy on what concepts to introduce, when they're introduced, how, why. There's a lot of very good individuals, but I think to your point, in a really good school, uh, concepts connect, right, from age to age and team to team. And for us, if we have coaches who coach, let's say on average a team 2 years, and they pass them on, and they're not using the same language, they're not, kid. I mean, just talk about language, right? In terms of concepts, it's great to get different, like formations. We're not like only playing one formation, or we're not saying, oh, if the 9 is on and in space, you can't play a long pass. A lot of people are like, oh, short passes, like all you have to do is just press them, steal the ball, and then you're in. Now, go ahead, press us high. We'll see that it's 1v1 higher up the field, and we will be able to play that longer pass. So I think there's a lot, like for us, it's a little bit, I'm going to be long winded with some of this because we could talk for an hour, right? Or 2 hours about those concepts and the philosophy, and how we teach. But I think in short, having that constant focus on evaluating what we teach and how we teach does ultimately make us a better school, and our coaches are better for it. And by the way, they all have a lot of autonomy. They all have different personalities that show up as the kids get older.
Mhm.
They should have mastered a lot of the concepts by the time they're, let's say, in the 16 through 19 band. So you'll see a lot of more adjustments, right, to game strategy. Our line of prep. We don't talk that much about how Alexandria presses, or how we win the ball back, or what is our philosophy there. But there's a lot of different conversations about what we do when we have the ball, when we don't have the ball, and in transition. And I think, hopefully, you know, you can just see that, hopefully what we're known for is not, oh, we only do like short passes. Hopefully what we're known for is our players can play in any system, even the most complex, um, systems that require knowing where to be, when to be there positionally. And again, if we're playing against a Philly Union, who may have better individuals, that we can we can sit back a little bit and counter and do other things that we may be required to do. So yeah, I would say that like overall we're just very committed to being thoughtful about how we teach.
Yeah. Well, and I know in my own son's education, when he played high school at Yorktown with all Arlington travel players, very good team, very high level players. He was very unique because of his Alexandria background, but also his yoga background and his
Yeah.
Barca background. He was so different than all the other players on the field. Now I always felt that was interesting, and it worked to his advantage. When we last talked, Coach, you'd made the club had made the commitment for MLS Next. That was a new thing in town. That was, we had talked about there was a DA back in the maybe 2012 around there that US Soccer had started. They picked some certain clubs to handle that in the area. But then MLS Next was the newest wrinkle. And from my point of view, I listened to parents talk, and it really seems to have been a great success for Alexandria because when Chandler played there, a lot of top players would leave Alexandria once they got a certain level and they would go to Arlington or DC United or whatever. Now I hear more and more players are going to Alexandria. The top players are going to Alexandria. So it seems to me, from a club point of view, MLS Next has been a big success for Alexandria from my perspective. How has it worked out for the club, and what's your projection of how long it's going to be around? Because these things change so quickly in soccer. So
I I will agree that youth soccer leagues change all the time, year to year. Leagues, you know, are ultimately putting together a schedule of games. That is their primary job, is to schedule the games. And at the end of the day, our American culture has put a lot of stock and have convinced our parents, consumers, that the leagues are the be all end all. So having navigated having our teams navigated through various leagues and iterations of leagues over the years, our club knows that that is something that we can't control, right? We don't have control over the governing bodies or the leagues. We of course can give feedback and be very active in trying to do so, but that will change. So to your point, I think you know the charter of some leagues are and the structure are definitely different, right? MLS having when taking over the US Soccer DA, which his primary goal is to identify players for the World Cup teams, has now shifted to identifying players for the MLS Pro teams and MLS Next Pro teams. So that has really shifted things. I think there's a lot of good that's coming from it. I also think MLS Next recognizes there's other leagues that are very good, and they're being, they're they're not trying to undermine the value of other league platforms. I want to be very clear in the communication that I am on. We get a lot of very, less divisive language. And again, because their primary goal is not to take over the world of running youth soccer leagues, their primary goal is to identify professional players. So to that point, bringing it back to your first question, Alexandria certainly over time was developing our players and our teams, right? So as individuals would graduate out, let's just say out of individual teams, perhaps they were just exponentially more advanced and sought a larger number of individual players that were at their level, and they left. We cheered them on. We wanted to see them succeed, and if it meant to go to a different team outside of our club, we were all for that. Now, to your point, I think playing with and against the pro academies and with and against players that have aspirations, real aspirations, and access to legitimately getting signed, has obviously pushed our own, and I say our own kids who have come up through the system to spend more time to improve. So we've gotten just better, right, with the kids, all the kids who are coming through our junior academy and what have you. And then of course, as our teams succeed, individual kids from here and there that didn't grow up at the club are coming in. So yes, number one, it is amazing to retain players over the course of their youth development, because then we can really see it through, right? In terms of our curriculum and the content, we want to see how they then progress into adulthood. So that is not only how it's designed to work for us, but it is fulfilling, that we can kind of still have that touch point. Secondly, attracting new players in, it is both a great opportunity, but also a great challenge, because oftentimes it may displace a player who on that specific team who has best friends on that team from many years of playing. And I think we recognize that the team dynamic is very much a factor in how good of an experience a kid has, right? But by that point, when it really gets to the 16 through 19s, when we see the most interest from external participants, our National League teams, the kids who play in USYS and State Cup, are very good. We have kids now getting the opportunity to play club soccer or Division III soccer from our second teams, and so we don't feel like it's compromising our ability to support kids, right, through the youth pathway. So yeah, that's again a little bit long-winded answer in saying that overall it has been a great addition, and I think MLS Next is really doing a great job of um, adding a nice competition platform for the MLS academies and a select group of clubs.
So the college level player, the players that want to play in college, and I hear a lot of parents complain that all the college scouts now are showing up at MLS Next events and not ECNL events, even though, as you know, there's some great ECNL teams in the area,
Oh yeah.
McLean and Arlington and stuff. But some of the parents were complaining that some of the events, the colleges wanted to go to the MLS Next events. Are you advising kids now, like when kids, like, let's say a really good player like Quentin Herman, who we both know really well,
Mhm.
if he ends up being a very solid Division III player, are are you telling kids now that when what is your goal? Do you want to travel to New York City for one game on a weekend and on your senior year or junior year of high school, and maybe you play 25 minutes when we can really get you a great experience, and you can still, and I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, you
Yeah.
can still get exposure, play Division III soccer, or maybe even Division I soccer, or is the MLS Next, is it really catering to folks who want to play pro, or is it as my friends are seeing it, all the college scouts are at MLS Next. That's where you have to be.
Yeah, I mean, you got some great questions. I
I'm
mean,
so,
these are
it's
very.
early in the
Uh,
morning. It's a snow day,
I
and
know,
I'm
man.
throwing all this stuff at you. Sorry,
I
coach.
know,
Yeah.
and uh, and they're great, right? I think that these are a lot of the hot button questions that are. There's a lot of misperception out there, and again, right now we have our boys teams are playing in the MLS Next platform. They're also playing in, like I mentioned, the USYS National League or NCSL. MLS Next it's not the only pathway to college. ECNL has a great collection of competition, right? They have a good league. Uh, College coaches, when individual players have the ability to play at that level and they're proactive, um, there is a pathway for kids within each of these platforms. Like I mentioned, uh, we have our second teams playing in USYS National League and a new platform, right? As we mentioned, National Academy League, NAL. Well, those kids they go to and are uh, interacting with many of the same coaches. We host a feature weekend, which we is actually in 2 weeks. ASA is hosting it. Doesn't matter what league you're in, you can come, and all these teams play in various leagues that are coming, and we'll have it's that event, which you probably remember it getting started a few years ago. It now has over 100 coaches coming, and we have 10 fields where it's going to occur at. They don't care what league, really, at that point. I will say that by the high school, the uh, individuals do end up convening on the best teams, and the best teams are playing in these national platforms, right? That I mentioned, and so it does make it easier logistically for these college coaches to scout. So my understanding is that college coaches are going at the bigger programs to all these events, uh, whether it's MLS Next or ECNL or National League. The less well-funded programs have a limited budget. So if they can only go to one event, they may choose MLS Next. That's the pro academies. So those pro academies are offering tuition-free, high-quality training environments, and in theory have done a really good job of identifying and collecting top players. So if they're not getting signed, and 99 or 98% of those kids in youth MLS academies are still playing college soccer, by the way. They're not getting signed. So, I would say like our most advanced players are going to MLS academies right now. So we, some of DC United's best players are Alexandria. Uh, and we are very proud of that. We hope they have an opportunity to choose whether or not they can play pro, or some of them may choose to take the college path regardless of having that pro opportunity. So you're not, for us, we try not to. At least my message to our staff is to not use a league as a marketing tool, but to share that yes, the platform we participate in will introduce and offer you a pathway to open doors to the future, whether it's pro, college, um, or beyond. Adult leagues. We have kids who don't go to college, but they want to keep playing. So we have that platform too.
Yeah. Coach, I want to get back to the college opportunities that are available, but real quickly, girls' leagues. What's going on in girls' soccer? Don't want to give them short shrift. Is there a
Definitely
new?
don't.
There's yeah, exactly. I know it's always
Yeah.
been as we talked before. Alexandria's always had strong coaching staff on the women's side. It's always been a
Yes.
focus on the female side. But what's going on in terms of leagues on the female side?
Yeah, just to reiterate, our most experienced coaches, many of whom you mentioned, are on the girl side.
Yeah, yeah,
Ryan Rich, our technical director, um, Adam, our academy manager, Peja, who you know for a long time. He's, we've got our most experienced coaches on the girls
I think you
side.
even got Tim over there. You even got Coach Tim over there now, right?
Tim's 2012s are one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah,
Um, and are doing great, right?
yeah.
So, a large percentage of our full-time staff and our technical staff are on the girls' side. So, the same concepts that I mentioned earlier about the boys' leagues apply to the girls.
Mm.
So there are various leagues, national leagues. There's the USYS National League, which is where our most advanced teams are playing this year. We've previously participated in the Girls Academy, uh, um, and there's also the ECNL national platform, which is US Club Soccer. So, between those three national platforms, there's also National Academy League, NAL, in different regions. They are, you know, overall, doing a good job of scheduling competitive games. And I would say the same concept applies for college coaches attending showcases. By the way, these leagues are built on 2 showcases a year. That's the selling point, right? Is two events. Maybe 3 if, in MLS Next there's a MLS Next Flex if you qualify. And so I think we're talking about 2 to 3 weekends a year where these national leagues are able um, to bring together scouts, right? And that's kind of the biggest piece of it. So for us, our girls are navigating through the different leagues. We look at you know we look at them as what's the schedule going to be. We also go to, I mentioned 2 showcases for these leagues. We go to probably 6 to 8 that are non-league events, whether it's, our feature weekend or, at Alexandria or Bethesda's Cup or Jefferson Cup or what have you. These events have done a good job of picking weekends that coaches can attend, right? Because the fall season, they have their own seasons. So yeah, I would just say to wrap that up, I mean, I think the focus on leagues and the amount of time and energy spent on or how we value clubs should not, in my opinion, be first question, what league are you in? Uh, to me, that should be like 4th or 10th. And again, this is coming from somebody who's very comfortable and secure in what league and competition platforms we're in. We're not in an insecure or wish we had that, type position. We're in a, hey, there's some great things about all the different leagues that offer different nuances, right? Different little rules, right? MLS Next, if you play in that platform, it's a pro track. Their belief is that the annual periodization does not um, cooperate well with high school soccer platforms. Of course, there's nuances around that, and it's still developing, I think. But that's a nuance, right? Some clubs make that choice on their own, regardless of what leagues they're in. So to me, I think to kind of hopefully introduce what the focus should be at clubs and what the conversations I hope focus on in the future are what we started the conversation with is who are the teachers? What values are your kids picking up at training and games? Are the sessions and training environment, challenging your child in a way that they can continue to not only develop their love for the game, but improve? They go hand in hand. The more somebody improves at something, the more they're going to do it because the better they are. So I just think these are the things we got to start challenging the youth sport and youth soccer environment clubs on. Not how are you differentiating yourself to get into a league? How are you differentiating yourself to be the best teachers of the game? And how does that show up on the weekends?
Yeah, as you were saying, I was just thinking, gone are the days when Alexandria couldn't get into the CCL. Now you don't have. I mean, you don't have to apologize about leagues anymore, and
Yes.
you still want to you're still advising people to judge clubs by their teaching and the other opportunities, and not just focus on because all you hear parents talk about is MLS Next or all. That's all you hear.
It's got to
parents.
stop. That's got to just, when people talk about it, it's like, what, who's your coach? I think we've talked about this historically. Who's your child's coach? What is the training environment like? Are they loving it and are they improving? And then, okay, what is the annual schedule of games? Well, a league produces 16 of those games. Tournaments are another 16. Friendlies are another 8. Like the competition is not defining how your child is improving and how
Yeah.
much they love the game.
Yeah. Coaching is so important because it's so, and we discussed this before. It's so hard sometimes to look at a talented player and just as you go from 7-on-7 to 9-on-9 or whatever to level, it's hard to know where the pieces all fit together. And I've talked to you when Coach Maestro was able to identify Chandler as a six. He never really had played there before. But when you have a coach that has a vision for a player, you can't underestimate that in development. Soccer is almost more than any other sport because it's really hard sometimes to figure out, where the pieces. Yorktown's high school coach is a genius, Coach Carlos. He coached over at Lima Vernon for a while. He's over at Villarreal, and Coach Carlos has an amazing vision. He can see players that have never played in positions. He can tell within 10 minutes where they belong. And it's just it's when you have a coach that has those kind of visions, it's so much more important as you said anything else. Let's get to college now. Last year, and I looked at the Washington Post all Met teams
Hmm.
in the spring. There were three Division One players in this doesn't include the fall. This was just in the spring. So this is just Virginia. There was only three Division One players on all the All Met teams, and Matthew Leonard was College of Charleston. Cooper
Hmm.
Noseworthy was James Madison, and there's one more, but there was a whole bunch of Mary Washington, lots of great Division Three. But three,
Yep.
I couldn't believe how few players got Division One. And now you could say maybe the great players aren't playing high school, but I think most of them played a little bit of high school.
Yep.
Has things gotten any better? The COVID year is almost over. Is the ability to get college opportunities ever going to get easier? I looked at, for example, the Mary Washington roster this year. I watched a lot of their games. I got to know the coach thanks to your introduction. So many great players from up here didn't even hit the field this year. Um, I saw them play growing up, and they're learning, and they know what it takes to succeed there. But it's so hard to get an opportunity to get on the field in college now. Do you see that getting any better?
Yes and no. Um, there is a massive backlog of players that have been given fifth, sixth. I've seen seventh years of eligibility
7 years.
to play. So, you know, obviously the pandemic was unfair, right? To players who were in their seasons that got canceled, right? That was just a really unfortunate result. However, I do sense now that Jeffrey, right? Aguilar, he had to wait an entire year. He was one of the best players in the area and
Yeah.
was a feature in the MLS Next national showcase game, one of the best players on the field. He had tons of opportunities across the country, all of whom were like, we have zero uh scholarship, that's for sure. And then roster spot was like, well, we're going to have these guys who've played college soccer for 5 years. So you're likely not going to play that much, like even if you get in the squad, because you're having to replace somebody who's still eligible. That's basically what is happening, at Division One schools is they just had all these players, everybody's coming back. So if they're recruiting somebody new, they're going to take somebody's spot. And then that person is getting in the portal and then transferring to a school that might be not quite as high, but then that's replacing another spot. So the trickle down, no, it's not over. And we tried to share that with our student athletes and the parents that support them. But it's difficult, right? Because you still want players to open doors and to pursue their dream of participating at the highest level possible next. But it's just not. And then the international player, um, you know, uh, uh, door is wide open, and it's just very difficult, right? It's in part pandemic, in part the development of college soccer and how it's getting more eyeballs, more investment, and in part the growth of the game in this country. There are so many youth soccer players, so many. Um, I think last I heard from just the registration databases of the US Youth Soccer, US Club, 20 million. I
Yeah.
mean, just to make your high school team is nearly statistically a stretch. I think 300 kids came to Alexandria's 200 300 kids at Alexandria's high school tryout. So, good luck making your high school team, let alone having any door opened at the college level, statistically speaking. Um, so no, it's not gotten that, I think even once the backlog kind of sort of, graduates out, I don't see it becoming easier to play. I think it's just going to continue to get more difficult.
Coach Chandler got to the intramural championship at UVA, and
And we're very proud. We're very proud of that, by the way. We are very proud of that.
Oh, thank you.
Sure, he wears his badge.
Exactly. Well, there were four ECNL McLean players on the other
Yeah,
team in the finals. When I walk around UVA, there are great soccer players everywhere, not even playing in college. You mentioned Jeffrey, and I followed Jeffrey and Cooper very closely. It just kept waiting at Mary Washington. Fernando Reyes was DC United Academy. Tristan Kickbush was the Yorktown goalie with Chandler. Hasn't got a chance to play. They got a transfer in from I think North Carolina Wesleyan came in and played phenomenal goalie from England. And so I follow these kids, and I can't wait to
yeah,
see them play.
I
What do
know.
you think? What do you think is a long term effect on these kids when they don't play? So a kid like Jeffrey, I grew up watching. I grew up. Jeffrey grew up in front of me. I watched him play since he was
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And as you know, I'm a big fan of him. And Chandler played against him all those years and played with him briefly as well. But what happens when these kids have had nothing but success all their lives, and then all of a sudden they spend a whole year on the bench? Do you think there's long term effects from that?
100%. I mean, I I sense that. Um, well, let me say one thing. Our We are now introducing more and more adult amateur levels of soccer to participate in. There's the leagues at the Division 4 of US soccer's professional pyramid is developing. So what I sense is that more and more people will start to funnel into those platforms rather than the NCAA being the platform. NCAA soccer is 3 months, right? They get to play a season. Of course, there's off season friendlies and what have you, but we're talking about the entire youth soccer mindset has always been okay. If you're good, you get a door. If you're on the All Met team, you're playing somewhere and you're contributing. Um, that's I think it's going to change, right? In my opinion, I think it'll be, yes, that's still going to be the most ideal scenario because being able to pair up high level soccer and get a degree at the same time is a dream. That's amazing. However, you're seeing more and more kids who are 16, 15 sign pro contracts. Then you're seeing the ones who don't have that look at the college route or go abroad. But this second division concept, MLS Next Pro, USL, NPSL, UPSL, all these platforms are becoming more accessible to college aged players. So Jeffrey, for example, Evan Paez played on our summer NPSL team.
Yeah, I
So
went
they're
to a game. It was
getting,
great.
yeah, and it's a good level. It's all high level players who, are trying to develop over, the spring and summer months. And so more and more of that, I think, will keep players motivated and excited about the sport and playing, because otherwise I think Division 1 or Division 3 players who jump on a team and they're like, okay, I didn't play my freshman year, didn't play my sophomore year. Just why am I doing this? Like I should play club instead. So I'm playing in a game in a competitive environment. Um, but if they can get that burn and and continue their competitive spirit about it in a different platform, and my hope is that it keeps more of these players playing longer, because I think that will also help our country develop more high level pros, because people develop, I mean, all at different times, like sometimes it doesn't click for people until they're like 22,
Mhm.
and like by that point, okay, it's done. For most folks, you're playing 7v7 co-ed, and
Yeah.
not being able to continue to play. So like, I hope that the amateur, um, pro level platforms that can complement the college environment or replace for some kids, um, addresses that challenge.
Yeah. Well, I think the Reds, you guys are building a culture over there. I went to a game, had a great experience. A lot. I watched little Jeffrey in his first, I guess, semi-pro game. Had an amazing assist that game, and I'm like, what can't this kid do? Um, I
Mhm.
definitely think that model makes sense. You watch these kids jump from school to school, and you wonder what they're really building by doing that, jumping school to school for their sport, whether it's basketball or soccer. And maybe like Europe, you can have school detached from or job attached detached from soccer, and you can do both. And maybe this offers. Do you see the Reds, that concept, continue to build, and maybe one day it's easier to access pro levels with uh, clubs like Alexandria that have a pro team?
Yeah, so I think NPSL had 10 guys get drafted
Oh
this
wow,
year.
that's amazing.
So ASA Reds, um, have been champions or uh, runner up last year. Um, and both Reds players are getting looks at USL, teams, or playing on USL teams now that's technically Division 2 of US soccer's pyramid, that and MLS Next Pro. And then the only thing above that is the MLS, so uh if you're looking at our platforms, right? And now our women are playing in the WPSL, which is a developing league. The conference here is about to expand quite a bit. So both on the men's and women's side, the that those platforms are growing and they're making them more accessible. It's not a multi-million dollar buy-in. Now it is accessible for clubs to start to, youth clubs that have thousands of players to now introduce that as a continuum. Um, so yes, I mean, I think DC United's first pick this year played MPSL for Annapolis. He's
Hmm.
from the Maryland area. Was at Georgetown, but we were playing Annapolis versus ASA Reds. Final was in front of 8,000 people
I saw that.
at
Yeah.
Navy Memorial.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey and Jacob Merle, the Georgetown kid, and other stars on both teams, um, goalkeeper from Mary Washington, uh, playing in front of more people than they would have in their college environment in a huge stadium with 8,000 people. I mean, if I'm an MLS scout, I'm looking at how that person shows up, in that game, or games. And I think, you're seeing this now as a stepping stone, right? It's becoming more and more and more developed, more investment into it, and right now it's really substituting the fact that the NCAA only has one season. So So yes, I'm optimistic.
Yeah. Well, Coach, last topic, and I really appreciate your time. It's always great talking soccer with you. Last time we talked about high school soccer, and the challenge with high school soccer is Virginia has a different season than all but I think 11 or 12 other jurisdictions. It doesn't interface well with the DC, Maryland, and also our private schools who play high school soccer in the fall. So what you have, in Virginia, you have kids that they're playing high school in the spring. If they're on the club, if they're on the club team with folks that are playing high school in the fall, it could be unfair
Yeah.
to players who are out of season. It's just a mess. And
Yes.
we it would be nice if we can get a high school soccer season, whatever it's going to be, and then we can all kind of plan around that. Clubs can schedule around that. Has there been
Yeah.
any movement? Has anything happened? I think one thing that high school soccer does, and I noticed this as a parent of a player who's no longer playing anymore. One thing high school soccer did when we talked about this earlier, these clubs were traveling all around. We're going to New York. We're playing all these players all over the place. One thing high school soccer does is when all that club player playing is almost over and you're getting ready to end your club career, you get to play with folks in your area again. So, like when Chandler was playing for Yorktown, we're playing against Little Jeffrey at Alexandria City. We're playing against McLean. All the kids from there, all the Barca kids were playing at South County High School. It brought everyone back together for one like two or three great seasons. Anyway, so I'm a big believer in high school soccer, especially for kids that aren't going to play at the next level. Have you seen any movement? Do people even talk about that anymore? And what are your thoughts?
People talk a lot about trying to get Virginia to align with the rest of the country for high school soccer season. As you mentioned, I coached at DeMatha for several years. We won a national championship. We had thousands of people at games. It was, you know, multiple A licensed coaches on our staff, uh, playing with and against, you know, guys who were going pro, uh, or are pro. Yes, I think the youth game has progressed and the learning environment within the youth clubs has developed to a more robust support system, more training, which has presented a challenge, but managing that would be much, much easier in our state if all clubs could deconflict just one season. So that is the primary reason why there's so much friction between high school sports or soccer really, high school soccer and club soccer, is that there is just not a season where that deconflicts. uh, so, I think in Maryland with DeMatha, it was, hey, the fall season was high school soccer, and you train, uh, once a week, twice a week max with your club, and maybe play state cup. Then all the leagues would start in November and run through June for club. And that was great. They had 8 months for club where they could go disrupted. Training numbers were high. Injury prevention was manageable. So I mean, my opinion is there any movement? I know that there's a lot of this, every couple years, every few years, when some of the youth club leagues make mandates, right? Whether it's the DA or, club specific mandates before that, it comes up, right? Because high school coaches, athletic departments, parents, players, everybody is like, why do we have to choose? It makes no sense. Um, and I think that's kind of the biggest challenge right now, is that everybody's put in a very difficult spot to deconflict schedules without missing opportunities, right? Because I think high school platform is great and people don't want to miss that opportunity. However, if there's one of these coveted showcases coming up, which are held late winter and early spring, when high school soccer is doing all their preseason training, their tryouts, and their early season, And then late spring is when the showcases start back up again for in late May and June, or there's regionals and nationals for club. Well, that's when the state regionals are and the state finals are for high school. It you're setting up everybody for missing opportunities, whether it's at club or high school. It's not like one platform is the suffer, the suffering. It's both, and I think the person and the people who are suffering the most are the players themselves for not having the adults, whether it's at the athletic. My understanding is the decision needs to be made in Richmond. Uh, the athletic, the school principal or the state school governing body needs to all come together and say, this is what needs to change. And that is up to athletic directors and principals of schools. But you have a divide because this is not a problem in Central or Southern Virginia. This is only a problem in Northern Virginia, where we have a large percentage of private and public institutions.
Yeah. I also I also think one thing that would happen is I think more club coaches would be available to coach high school if they did a better job conflicting. So we'd get a better game. We get a lot better
Yes.
instruction, and the high school season will be more meaningful. Right now, like I said, Yorktown has a great coach, but a lot of the high school coaches, they're gym teachers. A lot of them they don't know a ton about soccer. That would change if we can do that. But anyway, Coach, look, this has been great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed talking with you. I know you're busy. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to give me your thoughts. It seems like things are exciting as ever around Alexandria. You guys continue to do great things. So maybe you can invite me out to another one of those Reds games. You don't have to invite me. I'll check the schedule. Well, come up.
You're welcome out anytime. Your listeners, if folks have critical questions about uh, youth or adult soccer or want to participate, like, we are an open door. I think oftentimes folks think that, everybody's head down and not open to feedback, or, like, we understand. We are certainly a large participant in defining the environment in the in this area, and want to influence things in a positive way. So if there's an opportunity for us to do so and to do something better, please reach out. My contact information is on the Alexandria Soccer website. We're an open door and we want to get better. So send unsolicited feedback. We love it.
Yeah. Well, it's also true what you said. Alexandria, I always felt like the leadership there was very accessible. It was very much a community club. And I'm really excited that you guys have been able to integrate MLS Next in a more ambitious program and still be able to keep that feel. And that's not, I'm sure it's not easy. I'm sure it's not
Yes.
easy to do. And I'm sure every day for you is not painless, pain free, but,
Yeah.
anyway, well, look, Coach, I'll put your contact information here as well, so people can find you easily. I really, again, appreciate you doing this.
Thank you, Julian. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's great, Coach. I'll see you
All
soon.
right. See
All right,
ya.
buddy.